Hello and welcome to the TrainCare facility. This is going to be a new series where we're going to be doing some self-care introspection type stuff. Today I want to speak quite candidly about something which I've been wanting to talk about for some time, but I felt I needed to be in the correct headspace in order to make this video. As I've alluded to previously, while I am doing a lot better now, I did struggle with my mental health towards the back end of last year, and what I'm going to be talking about has a lot to do with that. So for anyone who doesn't know or has not looked at my Twitter bio, I am polyamorous. I also consider myself hyper-romantic. I'm towards that end of the sexuality spectrum. Essentially, I just deeply crave human intimacy in all its forms, which is kind of at odds with how I'm quite socially awkward and introverted IRL. I think part of it might be a response to the fact that as an autistic person I experienced a degree of infantilization growing up, and I also had quite a sheltered upbringing in a rural area. As I've discussed before, being autistic in my case also meant that for a long time I basically had no social skills. Even now I'm pretty rubbish at small talk. Ideally, I need someone who is either prepared to lead the conversation or otherwise just let me ramble about one of my special interests. And so the point of all this is to say that I'm probably not the best equipped when it comes to stuff like flirting and dating and all of the mind games that come with it. And when it feels like you've got so much to give but you're just not getting anywhere or making any progress, then it can become very frustrating. And I know I'm not the only one who's felt this way. One of the worst things about it is you feel like you have to hide what you're going through and not ever show it to anyone, because being desperate in itself is considered unattractive, which can lead to even more feelings of isolation and alienation. Again, to reiterate, I am doing a lot better now, and it helps that I do now have an intimate partner who is a close friend who's also polyamorous, which is an ideal situation for me really, because it means I'm essentially free to pursue finding a romantic partner while still getting some of my needs met. But I'm fully aware that I've been very lucky while others aren't so lucky, which is why this is still something I wanted to talk about. There are a couple of statements I want to discuss which you often come across or that other people will sometimes tell you when you're in that position that aren't necessarily helpful. The first of these is you have to love yourself before you can love other people. There's variations of this, but the basic idea is that you should learn to be happy being on your own before you can start dating or enter a relationship. Now, while I believe this sentiment is well intentioned, it can come across as patronizing and a bit of a slap in the face, especially when it's coming from someone who's been in a loving relationship for years or has never had any difficulty finding intimacy in their life, and it's like, well, it's easy for you to say that. It reminds me a lot of King in the episode of The Owl House we just reviewed. Like, I don't need to be told to love myself. That's not where I'm at. Maybe I would choose to be on my own if I could, but the point is I want it to be my choice. The other statement you'll occasionally hear is that sex is a privilege, not a right. Now, I'm not going to argue that statement is incorrect, because of course no one owes you intimacy. With that logic you'd be getting into coercion and incel territory. What I do want to question, however, is whether the notion that sex is a privilege is really reflected in our culture. Because intimacy is essentially treated like a commodity, and it's everywhere you go, especially at this time of year. You know, you walk into shops and there's Valentine's cards and chocolates and perfumes and lingerie, and then you watch movies and listen to songs, and how many of them are about love and relationships, even if it's relationships breaking up and not working out. The implicit implication of all this is that there's something wrong with you if you're not able to find intimacy, or indeed if you're not interested in seeking it. I know I have some people in my audience who are ero-ace, and if you're still watching at this point, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because I'd imagine it must be kind of alienating. And I haven't even got onto the whole ridiculous stigma that exists around virginity yet. By the way, if you're one of those people who responds to being called a virgin by saying, "I can have sex anytime I like," then you're part of the problem. Stop doing that. The point is that intimacy, be it romantic or sexual, is built up into this really big deal in society. Like, even the most conservative traditional ideal, which I don't ascribe to whatsoever, is that you will eventually meet a monogamous partner who you'll then get married and settle down and have babies with. And having all of this constantly shoved in your face only to then be told sex is a privilege, not a right, can be very weird and alienating. Now, while a lot of this stuff is very personal, part of why I wanted to make this video is I know I'm not the only one who's felt this way. And the reason I know that is because I've had friends of both genders who've been in a similar position. The reason I clarify both genders is that, as I alluded to before, you do get incels who will try to use it as an excuse to justify misogyny, and if it wasn't already clear, that is not okay. And it's important to acknowledge that women can absolutely experience these feelings of loneliness and alienation too, as can non-binary people. And the worst part is how it can make you vulnerable. I know people who've been taken advantage of and been in very unhealthy situations where their consent has essentially been violated, and they felt like they couldn't complain at the time because, they're that desperate they should be grateful. It's really messed up, and I'm lucky that I've never been taken advantage of in that way. Though when I look back to my last relationship, I probably got more invested in trying to make that work than I really should have done, and that's because deep down I felt that if this doesn't work out, I might not get another chance, this could be it. And that obviously isn't the healthiest mindset to be coming into a relationship from. But all of this leads into my concluding point here, which is the importance of having friends to confide in and a support network you can turn to. Because for one, friends can warn you if you're getting into something that's not healthy, and they can snap you out of it if that's what you need. But they can also be there just to listen and give emotional support, which in my case helped a great deal. I think the worst thing you can do is to bottle up your emotions, even if those emotions aren't always rational. And I'm just very grateful that I do have people who I've been able to vent to and who've been very patient with me. And if any of those friends are listening, I want you to know how much I appreciate it. So yeah, if you're in a similar position, find someone you can trust who you can open up to, or if you need to, find someone you can talk to anonymously. As with any kind of mental health concern, always try to remember that you are not alone and things can and do get better. This is Midnight Chimes reminding you that we are all valid and we're all in this together. Thank you.